In this video, I want to share with you my 5 best tips for creating a beautifully designed, curated, interesting living room. And also share with you my tips for avoiding some of the most common mistakes I see homeowners make in their living rooms. Tip number 1 is to make sure that your coffee table is sufficiently large. I'm focusing specifically on the coffee table because that's one mistake that I see happen very often. Homeowners choose fully properly sized sofa and chairs, and then we have this small coffee table that's really quite far removed from all the seating. I'm a big fan of creating welcoming, intimate seating areas. When you have a coffee table that is too small, not only is it difficult to put down your drink, but perhaps even more importantly, you have a lot of empty space in front of where you sit. And psychologically, that prevents us from feeling cozy and intimate, having that open space in front of us. So having a coffee table that's properly sized and much closer to where you sit really helps to create that wonderfully intimate feeling. So to that end, I recommend going with a coffee table that is 2/3 of the length of your sofa and is placed about 18 to 20 inches away from the edge of your seat. That distance, 18 to 20 inches, allows you to comfortably get in and out, but will again eliminate that dead space, that empty space when you sit down, and make you feel very cozy. And if you have a sectional, same rules will apply. If you make sure that there's 18 to 20 inches from the edge of the table to the edge of the sectional, you should be able to arrive at the right size. This may also mean that you would want to move your seating, your sofa, your chairs away from the walls if you have a larger living room. I often see furniture pushed against the walls and that lonely coffee table sitting in the middle. If your room permits it, do bring those pieces away from the walls so that you can have that shorter distance between the table and the sofa or chairs and create a much more intimate seating area. I do encourage you to try that at home right now and examine what those distances are between the seating and the coffee table. Tip number 2 is to make sure that your rug is properly sized. I've touched upon it in my previous video, but I cannot emphasize this enough. A rug that is too small will immediately take away from that sense that your living room is properly designed and well executed. If I were to choose between having a rug that is too small and not having a rug at all, I will go with no rug. That's how important this one is. Ideally, you would want all the legs of your sofa and your chairs to sit on the rug, but if you can't have a rug quite that large, at a minimum, the front legs should sit on it. Tip number 3, make sure that your drapes are appropriately full. So we often hear about hanging your drapes at a proper height. We certainly never want our drapes to sit or to be hung right above the casing. We want to give our windows as much height as possible, and hanging your drapes high will really help you do that. But what I want to stress today is having appropriate fullness to your drapes. I very often see homeowners buying a single panel and framing your window like that. They already look a little skimpy on the sides of the window, but then if you would try to close them, you end up with these almost flat hanging sheets of fabric that do not look attractive at all. As a rule of thumb, you want to be sure that you buy panels that are 2 to 2.5 times the width of your window. Tip number 4 is to ensure that you have properly layered lighting in your room. I very often see homeowners install recessed lights or perhaps a beautiful chandelier and stop at that. Overhead lighting is never ideal for our living spaces. At night, we want much more nuanced, more intimate, layered lighting. And that comes from table lamps, floor lamps, picture lights, if you can install them to highlight your artwork. And if you have built-ins, I love installing under-shelf lighting to highlight the contents of the built-ins. Those are relatively inexpensive lighting solutions that can do wonders for how beautifully designed and layered your room feels at night. Truth be told, as much as I love beautiful chandeliers, I hardly ever use them to actually illuminate the room. I treat them more as a decorative element. I loved having them as that vertical layering element, but I hardly ever turn them on. I really heavily rely on my layered lighting, so my floor lamps, table lamps, picture lights, and built-in undershelf lights. So I strongly encourage you to consider adding those pieces of lighting if you don't have them already, and watch your living room come beautifully to life at night. And tip number 5 is to really pay attention to your walls. We tend to pay a lot of attention to our main furnishings, but when you think about it, your furniture, your sofas, your chairs, your coffee table only take up about 1/3 of the height of your room. In fact, when you walk into the room, where your eyes land is actually the walls, right? Our eyes look at the walls first before they drop down to see the furniture. And therefore, it's so hugely important to make sure that we pay attention to wall treatments, perhaps wall moldings, perhaps a mural, perhaps wallpaper, and certainly artwork. I often see artwork being an afterthought, something that's bought just on an impulse. It's often too small. In my books, oversized artwork is almost always better than artwork that is too small. And I promise you, when you look at your walls more carefully and you add treatments and artwork that is properly sized, it will go a really long way in making your room feel beautifully curated and finished. And to that end, in your living room, we'd like the piece over your sofa in particular to be at least 2/3 of the size of the sofa. That will ensure that it feels appropriately sized and fills out a large portion of that wall. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, I encourage you to check out my magazine-worthy Spaces Essentials Masterclass. That's where I share many more of my best tips and tricks that I myself use when I design client projects, and they allow me to create beautifully layered, curated, interesting spaces. I've included more information and the link in the description. Until next time.